Royal weddings are steeped in tradition, grand affairs that combine royalty, tradition, and old world values. Well, that's all about to change because Prince Harry dances to his own tune. Prince Charles to his son Prince William each chose the perfect British princess. Prince Harry took a different route in a very confident, independent, and drop-down gorgeous American named Meghan Markle.
Well, very excited, delighted for them both.
William and I are absolutely thrilled. It's such exciting news.
Well, the Queen's happy about it. If she wasn't happy, she wouldn't have given her permission.
This relationship with Meghan Markle was going to go all the way to the altar.
We look at Prince Harry and Meghan and how they came together in a whirlwind romance.
It's not about protocol, it's not about the family, it's about the two people who are in love.
It's just always nice when someone who seems really cool falls in love and gets engaged.
Super excited for her.
Just an amazing surprise. It was so sweet and natural and very romantic. He got on one knee.
Through expert opinion, we show you preparations from the royal venue to the cake and everything in between. We will also examine past royal weddings and how they compare to Harry and Meghan's. We will also celebrate the big day and discuss the future for this fairy tale matchup. Meghan may not be from the proper bloodlines, but no matter, she has won over the British public and captured the heart of a prince. When news of Prince Harry's new love, actress Meghan Markle, hit the internet, it rocked royal foundations and sent the press into a tailspin.
This relationship with Meghan Markle was going to go all the way to the altar, that they had never seen Harry so in love, so head-turned, and actually so happy.
In the absence of any denials from Kensington Palace or royal insiders, the world knew that the Bachelor Prince was serious about his new love.
It's an incredible love story, isn't it? An American actress meets Prince Charming.
An onslaught of questions began to form about the romance. Where did they meet? How long? And most important, who is Miss Markle?
Meghan grew up in a family with not a lot of money. Her parents separated when she was 6 years old.
Meghan is one of our own. You know, she started as kind of a real girl from Los Angeles.
Meghan Markle is a very special, engaging woman. She's extremely clever. She's very sincere and very eloquent. And I think she's one of those people who everybody, when they meet her, falls in love with.
Markle, a successful actress and philanthropist in her own right, had no problem dealing with the intense speculation regarding her romance.
Meghan Markle is going to be a bigger interest factor than William's wife, Kate, because of the connection, because of the American connection, because of the fact that the divorce and this sort of film star, which generates so much interest.
This is somebody who has been an actress for many years and who has become quite a big star, and also, you know, potentially could have become a really big Hollywood star.
As the romance grew from strength to strength, the engagement announcement in November of 2017 was not surprising and celebrated worldwide. Not only was everyone excited about new blood being pumped into the royal family, but that the lovable prince, who struggled through years of emotional hardship, had finally found a home for his heart. Once labeled the Wild Royal, Prince Harry was born and raised under the intense scrutiny of global media.
I remember the very first day that I went to Sandringham House in Norfolk, which is one of the Queen's palaces and I remember sort of walking and being shown into this white room, this royal room in Sandringham by a very attentive butler. And he said, "Oh, it's Inspector Worf, ma'am, from London." "Oh," she said, "Ken, I don't envy you looking after my children. They can be a bloody nuisance." At which point, Harry was destamenizing this vase of royal lilies on a small table. And William was attempting to play the piano, And William turned round and said, no, we're not, are we, Harry? And he sort of burbled something as a 3-year-old, fell off this table, followed by this vase of lilies that crashed on the floor. Of course, they get up and run like any kids do. And Diana says, come here, both of you, come here, and runs out of the room, and I hadn't said a word.
He performed his first royal duties as a small child and nearly drowned in scandal as a young adult, all before witnessing the atrocities of war in an active combat role while serving in the British Army.
I remember him as a 3-year-old. He was never out of khaki uniforms. This guy was a soldier in waiting. And luckily, he had every encouragement from his father and his mother.
I got here on Christmas Eve. Most of the guys were pretty bummed that I was here because nothing was happening for the first few days that I was here, but things are picking up again.
But he achieved that. He went to the military academy at Sandhurst. He sort of fought his battle in Afghanistan. But of course, he realized that this wasn't an army life forever because of the risks involved. You know, he himself had to be protected in Afghanistan. And he realized that after the first tour and the second tour, he couldn't really justify that. And the only thing that let him down was the fact that he was a member of the royal family.
But there is no doubt that the singular, most painful event in the young prince's life was his mother's death in 1997. The world watched Harry, age 12, walk behind his mother's coffin as the funeral procession wove through London to Westminster Abbey.
A lot of people hold Harry in particular affection actually around the world. They remember that image of Harry walking behind his mother's coffin.
Prince Harry, now an activist for mental health, revealed that decades of chaos followed this life-altering loss.
Harry has come from a broken home. Harry is admitted to having mental health issues, having to come to terms with the death of his mother. It actually took him 20 years to admit that he did have these mental health issues, and he did something about it.
He stumbled publicly, and the world got to see it all. The Nazi costume worn to a fancy dress party, the racial nicknames doled out to fellow Sandhurst cadets, and strip billards in Las Vegas with nude photos to boot.
Harry has grown up a lot in the last few years, if we remember the kind of celebrity kind of lifestyle he was living and some of those parties he was going to and those pictures of him that were, you know, less than desirable as far as the Queen was concerned.
We've seen Harry struggle throughout the years, you know, whether it's through acting out with drugs or other things.
Harry acted out, as most young adults do, except his mistakes were public.
He's been sort of a typical teenage boy, a typical young 20-something boy, but he's had to do it in the public eye on the world stage.
Even apologies were critiqued and judged. Beyond the paparazzi noise, it became clear that this was not a usual teenage rebellion. Harry was suffering.
Harry, in every sense of the word, is a carbon copy of his mother in so many ways. You know, he has that sort of risk element attached to his life. He likes a joke, he gets things wrong, you know, but he learns from his mistakes. You know, I know people have given him a bit of a kicking in the past for the things that in some people's words, brought discredit on the royal family. But he's learned from his mistakes. And in that sense, you know, that gives him that normality, a word that Diana was using often. You know, I just want my kids to be normal. I want to be normal.
Who knows what the situation would be, or what the world would be like if she was still around. So, no, there's all sorts of thoughts and emotions that come running through, especially the fact that I was here last in 1993, running around with, you know, Donald Duck and all those characters with her, and now I'm back here, you know, 31 years old. And you know, try my best to make her proud.
Harry's transformation has been actually a remarkable one because we've seen his life take really many different paths. We've seen him get into trouble for underage drinking, for smoking cannabis, for dressing up as a Nazi at a friend's birthday party, you know, for ending up without any clothes on more recently in Vegas. And each time these things happen, the public, I think, forgive Harry, and I think they probably forgive him because he's got a place in all of our hearts. I don't think anyone will ever forget that very, very striking and heartfelt image of him walking behind his mother's coffin. He was 12 years old when he lost his mother.
Prince Harry found inspiration for change through the unconditional support of his brother, Prince William, who gave Harry a hearty dose of the candid honesty he needed. Amidst the turmoil of grief, adolescence, and life as a royal, the influence of Diana's passion for humanitarian work, and specifically HIV, remained with Harry. After visiting Lesotho in his gap year, Harry and Prince Seeiso of Lesotho formed the Sentebale organization in 2016.
The charity started in 2006, and it was started by Prince Harry and also Prince Seeiso of Lesotho. And it followed a visit that Harry made in 2004. He spent a couple of months up in the mountains in Lesotho. It's a very remote area. And he was really struck particularly by the plight of the children there. So there are so many vulnerable children in Lesotho. It's a very poor country, and it has been affected very seriously by the HIV/AIDS epidemic. So 1 in 3 children are orphaned as a result of the epidemic.
It's behind the scenes up in the mountains where the sort of volunteer nurses are doing sort of house runs to go and basically help these really sick people, not just kids but sort of elderly people as well, who are dying of AIDS, lying in their beds with no access to a hospital, no access to a clinic.
Sentebale means forget-me-not in Lesotho's and was the word deliberately chosen to represent both Prince's late mothers.
The work that we do in Lesotho and Botswana and soon Malawi is to provide a safe space for children who are living with HIV to be able to learn more about living with HIV, be able to build confidence and resilience about how they stay healthy. Why Lesotho was because he was there, and obviously he saw and witnessed himself the situation that some of the young people were in, and so he just responded to that. But obviously it does stem from interest in support in following on his mother started in terms of breaking down stigma around HIV.
I asked friends of mine choosing where I should go for my gap year, and it was sort of based around what my mother had been doing, and I wanted to sort of carry that on. And what better place than to do it here? It's got a problem with AIDS, and there's lots of children. I'm sure she knew this place, but we decided trying to start something slightly new.
Carrying the torch for his mother, the People's Princess, humanitarian work is critical in Prince Harry's role as a royal.
Prince Harry's been very, very involved and very actively involved in the charity from the very beginning, from the very start. He regularly attends board meetings, he has to sign off the strategy. In addition to that, he loves being out in the field, and the reason for that really, he's got a real genuine empathy with young people, with kids. They really kind of are massively attracted to him.
We've seen him with his nephew and niece. We've seen him with children, whether it's at Sentebale in Lesotho. We've seen him with children in hospital. We've seen him in nursery schools. We've seen him at schools. We've seen him with people at the Invictus Games. Harry is a people person, but there is something lacking in his life.
Harry's mischievous nature has always won hearts, even while struggling on the inside. The prince's rugged good looks and charming ways attracted potential suitors. Chelsea Davy was one such lady and became Prince Harry's on and off girlfriend from 2004 to 2011.
Chelsea Davy was a long term, but that fizzled out. I don't think Chelsea Davy was prepared to go into the Goldfish Bowl.
Sometimes the timing just isn't right, and this relationship was not to be. In 2012, his casual dating came to a halt again when his cousin, Princess Eugenie, introduced him to Cressida Bonas.
He was an actor. She didn't want to. She wanted to pursue an acting career.
This relationship ended in 2014 when royal public life became too much for Cressida.
There were points when I think most people thought that the relationship might end with an engagement, but actually neither of those girlfriends wanted the intense spotlight that comes with being a royal girlfriend. They didn't want that level of intrusion in their lives, and ultimately they weren't prepared to make the sacrifice that they needed to make to be with Prince Harry.
Through ups and downs, Harry has been able to find himself, and now his soulmate. In 2016, when a friend in Toronto introduced Meghan Markle to a prince, perhaps in some way, the universe knew it was time.
I didn't know much about him, and so the only thing that I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, I had one question. I said, well, is he nice?
Already a successful actress and well-known humanitarian, 36-year-old Meghan Markle is accustomed to living in the spotlight. But in November 2017, her engagement to Prince Harry triggered an escalation of media attention that the royal-to-be had probably never experienced before. It's the stuff of fairy tales, another fantastical royal wedding to inspire a nation. But sadly, the joy of this pending union has been splintered by the worst of those in the media since the news of their courtship broke.
The difficulty, of course, with Prince Harry finding love with a famous actress was exactly that. She was a famous actress. The time that the romance was actually revealed in the papers, I remember she was promoting a clothing line for Reitmans, the Canadian department store, and she was having to do a lot of press around that. Well, how could you do press interviews around a clothing line and people not want to talk about Prince Harry? So I think they realised early on, particularly at the palace, that there was a potential conflict of interest. It's why we saw her posting less on Instagram. It's why we saw her eventually close down her lifestyle blog and eventually give up her career as an actress, which is what she's done to marry Harry.
She's going to have to be very careful of what goes on social media now. I mean, it's a royal rule of thumb that there's no selfies. And we saw that in her first day out in Nottingham when she was taking photos with people. She was like, no, I'm not allowed, no selfies.
Markle is a biracial American, an actress, and a divorcee. And while most people find this union a beautiful and refreshing reflection on what the 21st century should reflect, it made Markle an immediate target for the dark media, who were quick to release bigoted, racially charged slurs.
There's a misconception that because I have worked in the entertainment industry that this would be something I would be familiar with, but even though I'd been on my show for, I guess, 6 years at that point, and working before that, I've never been part of tabloid culture. I've never been in pop culture.
You know, Meghan certainly felt that the British press were out to get her. I don't think the press were out to get her as such. I think they were out to find out as much as they could about her. You know, her ex-husband being doorstepped, her mother having reporters turning up asking questions, all of her friends being contacted.
I haven't met him, but I mean, I've spoken to Meg a couple of times. They're so happy and so in love, and it's so normal. And
it's not a nice experience. It's one that Harry has spoken about and has always recognised. It's the one experience that immediately puts a potential girlfriend off, and of course it would do.
That line between public and private life is almost non-existent anymore, and we will continue to do our best to ensure that there is the line. I tried to warn you as much as possible, but I think both of us were totally surprised by the reaction.
Internet trolls pounced, and a media storm of sexist and bigoted articles were released. This appalling lack of decency made it impossible not to ponder the similarities between Meghan and Harry's late mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, who was the subject of such intense media scrutiny that most believe the paparazzi caused her tragic death.
And those people that caused the accident, instead of helping, were taking photographs of her dying on the back seat. And then those photographs made their way back to news desks in this country.
This was all pre-social media. You know, the genuine paparazzis were the guys with a camera around their neck, and the sort of Fleet Street mob, you know, the national newspapers. Now we've got this extraordinary social media where everybody with a smartphone is a potential paparazzi.
I think I can very safely say, as naive as it sounds now, having gone through this learning curve in the past year and a half, I did not have any understanding of just what it would be like.
Nowadays, it's not just the TV we'll be watching people's social media. We'll be going onto their Instagrams and going onto their Twitter and their Snapchats and their Facebooks to see what their opinion is. You know, it's not just about, in the olden days, you know, in Diana time, you know, before then, you would have a royal correspondent or a fashion expert just saying their opinion. Now you have millions of people's opinions.
Not so long ago, Kate Middleton endured similar scrutiny and had to take legal action to protect herself. But this is 2018, Miss Markle is engaged to a man who sadly knows too well the damage an obsessive media can inflict.
I think that Harry's probably being pretty cool throughout this whole ride. He's experienced that sort of back and forth of not totally being ready for this royal family and the living under the microscope in the way that he has had to. And I think he's probably been a really great coach and mentor for Meghan through this to kind of prepare her for what she's about to experience.
It's not just, of course, her career. In terms of what Meghan is going to have to learn, she's going to have to learn who her friends are. She's going to have to learn who she can trust. She's going to have to get used to having a protection officer 24/7. She's going to have to get used to everything in her life, absolutely everything, from what she wears, to who she's seen with, to where she goes for her facials, to being photographed absolutely everywhere in every situation.
I think you can have as many conversations as you want and try and prepare as much as possible, but we were totally unprepared for what happened after that.
It's funny because Harry can relate to that. When he was bad boy Harry, 3-4 years ago, he started up a fake Facebook account. He was Spike Wells, and that's how he met these girls in Vegas. And, the palace had to shut that down.
This time, Buckingham Palace's response was direct and swift when it came to the defense of Meghan Markle. They called out the dark media and put a swift end to their trolling. However, with Meghan having experience in Hollywood, this sort of scrutiny was an everyday occurrence for her. Not only could she handle negative comments on various social sites, but she was a pro with the paparazzi and media.
I think the reaction to Meghan is getting better in the press. I think it was ugly to begin with. I think the press in the UK really went hard on her. And Meghan pointed that out in her interview that she had with Harry. She said, I don't even read it anymore.
I think we were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything, positive or negative.
I think Meghan is used to tabloid spreads. I think the fact of the matter is she has modelled, she has been an up-and-coming actress who's did very well. She's done probably some things that she regrets in the past. She's been married for one, which is a big story. She's divorced. The headlines are already been out there for her, so I don't think really anything can faze her.
We think that Meghan, soon to be the Duchess of Sussex, has far more to offer the royal family than the critics are crying about.
I think you're going to see with Meghan a bit of magic, I think, to the royal family, that sprinkling of stardust.
Meghan Markle is the epitome of a true Californian, born and raised by her Emmy Award-winning father and her mother, a social worker and yoga instructor.
Meghan grew up in a family with not a lot of money. Her parents separated when she was 6 years old. Her dad actually won the lottery when she was 9 for $750,000 US, which allowed Meghan to go to Northwestern School just outside Chicago, which is an amazing university. Had that not happened, she would have never had that opportunity. But I bet you, Meghan still would have been where she is today had she not gone to that university.
Meghan is one of our own. She started as kind of a real girl from Los Angeles. She went to Northwestern, where she majored in theater and international relations. And then obviously she became a TV star, but she was still fairly below the radar for people that didn't watch Suits. So with Meghan, there is this sense of a real girl just like us, married into the royal family and ascended to this lofty position.
Her heritage and a relatively privileged West Coast life seem to have given Meghan a unique lens through which she navigates the world. It's plain to see that she's worked tirelessly to carve out an incredible successful career with grace and elegance long before meeting her prince. There's also no need for concern by the royal establishment over Meghan's stamina for work. Her resume makes us wonder where she gets her energy. Working as a calligrapher to make ends meet while auditioning tirelessly alongside thousands of other acting hopefuls in LA and playing smaller roles for years. Meghan's tenacity paid off when she landed the role of Rachel Zane in Suits in 2011.
There's a long list of things that don't qualify her to be a royal bride. But the truth is, if you delve a little bit deeper into who Meghan is and the roles that she's had in the past, she actually is quite a solid fit for Harry. And I think that the fact that she was an actress on a hit TV show has taught her a lot and will prepare her for this role.
Miss Markle has never been the girl in the corner either. When it comes to fighting for the right causes, at the tender age of 11, she fought for and won a battle against a national company to change its sexist material.
It's about 1 out of every 3 commercials is gonna say something that's gonna hurt somebody's feeling.
Her willingness to work freely for humanitarian causes was well documented long before meeting her prince.
I am proud to be a woman and a feminist.
A relentless advocate for women's rights, Markle has campaigned on this issue with the United Nations since 2015.
Women need a seat at the table. They need an invitation to be seated there. And in some cases, where this isn't available, well then you know what? Then they need to create their own table.
Megan's an ambassador for World Vision Canada. We saw her go to Rwanda on a water mission. And I think that those are things that Megan loves and is passionate about. And she was really interested in those things before even having met Harry or thought up this idea of becoming a princess. So I think that that says a lot, is that this is genuinely something that's in her and not that she's playing it to be.
I work with Megan on a thing called the Global Gift Gala, which is a big event that we do in London to raise awareness for many different charities. The charity we work with was called Caldwell Children, which is for disabled children. Megan hosted it, and she got very involved in what we did, and she wanted to learn about the charity. She wanted to learn about how we benefit the children.
It appears that Megan will fit right into life as a royal, and bringing her grace, poise, and proven work ethic, and a seemingly inherent desire to help others.
Both of us have passions for wanting to make change for good, and with lots of young people running around the Commonwealth, that's where we're going to spend most of our time, hopefully.
And it was really one of the first things we connected on. It was one of the first things we started talking about when we met, was just the different things that we wanted to do in the world and how passionate we were about seeing change, I think.
For anyone obsessed with the next royal romance, the conjecture ended in October 2016, when news of Prince Harry and American actress Meghan Markle's relationship broke.
I received probably 15 emails and tweets kind of all at once when the news broke.
Instead of the excitement dissipating, the buzz of this unexpected romance broke records.
We found out that she was a little bit older than him. She, obviously was a famous actress in her own right.
And I immediately started Googling her and was like, okay, this girl, she's beautiful, she's smart, so it definitely was exciting and intriguing.
Meghan was the most Googled woman in 2017. It's what the public wanted. It was a love story, it was exciting.
When the beans spilled that they met through a mutual friend, who this royal matchmaker was became the hottest mystery in social media. There have been many hints, but no one has confirmed or denied Cupid's identity yet.
We were introduced actually by a mutual friend who
We should protect her privacy and
protect her
not
privacy,
reveal too much of that.
And but it was literally through her, and then we met once and then twice back to back, 2 dates in London last July.
With the story of how they met put to bed, a new obsession took over royal fans. Is Meghan Markle actually the one?
It was, I think, about 3, maybe 4 weeks later that I managed to persuade her to come and join me in Botswana.
Right off the bat, he took Meghan with him to Botswana to celebrate her birthday and experience his glamping.
Then, in 2016, it became apparent that this relationship was significant. According to Royal Watchers, when Harry took Meghan to his best friend's wedding in Jamaica, gossip turned into a genuine buzz. The 3-day Jamaican celebration was the best opportunity yet for Harry to introduce Meghan to his inner circle of friends. And it was reported that they fell in love with her too. The romantic occasion provided the perfect opportunity for the pair to show their affection for one another.
We had a good 5-6 months almost with just privacy, which was amazing. Very early on, when we realized we were going to commit to each other, that we knew we had to invest the time and the energy and whatever it took to make that happen.
I don't think you've had any idea what time zone you've been on for the last year and a half.
No.
Coming over here 4 days or a week and then going back and then straight into filming the next day, 4 a.m. wake-up calls on a Monday,
yes.
Straight into set.
The media broke into a frenzy when word got out that the couple would be making their first public appearance together at the 2017 Invictus Games, a major sporting event for wounded veterans initiated in 2014 by Prince Harry.
1 week ago, I told you that you needed to be ready, but even I could not have been ready for the scale of what we witnessed at these games.
The Invictus Games are a personal and important event for him. So when Harry invited Meghan's mother, Doria Radland, to join them at the closing ceremony, it was clear that this romance is the real deal and that Harry had Doria's blessing.
It's just how differently they're doing things, and whether it's that sort of very unusual show of affection at the Invictus Games, where Harry kissed Meghan not just in front of his future mother-in-law, but in front of the world.
The speculation changed course. Now everyone wanted to know when and how a proposal would occur. But importantly, was Meghan going to be accepted by the royal family? And was the Queen going to permit such a union?
I think the Queen's definitely excited about this. I think if anything, she's just more excited about the fact that Harry's finally going to now be off the market.
I think there's no reason to think the Queen wouldn't be anything other than delighted about this marriage. She's a devoted grandmother. She played a critical role in Harry's life as a young man after Diana's death.
Let's be honest, she's in her 90s, so she wants to make sure that everything's right before she goes. And I think she's doing it really well. She's become much more progressive, she's become much more relatable, she has allowed things that potentially might not have been allowed before to happen. She understands too that if the royal family is going to carry on, that we need to see them being modernised. We need to feel that we can actually be a part of their lives.
Meghan had already met Prince Harry's father, Prince Charles, and his wife Camilla. She was now good friends with Prince William and Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge.
I've been seeing her for a period of time when I literally didn't tell anybody at all. And then William was longing to meet her, and so was Catherine. So, they're being our neighbours, we managed to get that in quite a few times now. And Catherine's been absolutely
wonderful,
amazing, as is William as well. Fantastic support. And then my father as well. We had a couple of, no more than that.
We had
a handful of teas and meetings, and
we've just had a really nice time getting to know them and progressively helping me feel a part of not just the institution, but also part of the family, which has been really, really special.
The breaths were held at the prospect of meeting the Queen. We didn't have to wait long. When Harry whisked Meghan away on a birthday holiday to Botswana, the couple returned and made a beeline for Balmoral. The consensus is that it was at this summer residence of the Queen that Prince Harry was able to make a formal introduction to the 91-year-old monarch.
It's incredible, to be able to meet her through his lens, not just with his honor and respect for her as the monarch, but the love that he has for her as his grandmother. All of those layers have been so important for me, so that when I met her, I had such a deep understanding and, of course, incredible respect for being able to have that time with her. And we've had she's an incredible woman.
As the couple's relationship blossomed, sweeping changes were coming for Miss Markle and her 7-year stint playing Rachel Zane, the feisty paralegal in the hit show Suits. The show's creator, Aaron Korsh, and his writers carefully planned for what they saw as inevitable. They gradually wrote Rachel Zane out of the series.
It's a new chapter, right? And also keep in mind, I've been working on my show for 7 years. So we were very, very fortunate to be able to have that sort of longevity on a series. And for me, once we hit the 100 episode marker, I thought, you know what, I have ticked this box, and I feel really proud of the work I've done there. And now it's time to, as you said, work as a team with you. Yeah.
The anticipation of an engagement continued to build, and finally, a formal announcement by Clarence House was made. Meghan Markle would become a member of the British royal family.
And tell us, how did you propose? Was it romantic?
The occasion itself will generate global television audiences, news items. Already they're planning it. We're already, 5 months away.
It is not lost us that a significant person is missing from this happy event.
I spoke to a veteran royal reporter who spent years photographing Diana, who took the very first pictures of Meghan and Harry kissing at the Polo last May. He said he hadn't taken pictures like that of the royals since Diana.
Diana, Harry's mother, has striking similarities with Meghan Markle, and Harry thinks they would have been great pals.
She would be over the moon, jumping up and down, so excited for me. But then, as I said, would have probably been best friends with Meghan.
Diana would have liked the way that Harry had grown up. I mean, obviously, he was in his early teens when, sadly, his mother died in that tragic accident in Paris. But, he survived that. He, as a young lad, walked behind his mother's coffin, in front of the sort of world's media. And he talks about it openly now. And so in that sense, his mother would have been exceptionally proud of him.
Well, I think Diana would be thrilled to see William and Harry settle down with, two really perfect brides, actually. Kate is so perfect for the role that she has to fulfill. And I think Meghan's, going to be a great success at all. And she's already proved to be very suitable in so many ways. They make the princes happy, and I think that's probably more important to Diana than anything else. She said she wanted them to marry for love.
Diana was a very hands-on individual, so in that sense would have been delighted with the way that William had found his love, his wife at university, and in the same way that no pressure was put on Harry to find his life.
Obviously, not being able to meet his mom, it's so important to me to know that she's a part of this with us, and I think in being able to meet just different people who are so important to his mom, I'm able to, in some way, know a part of her through them and, of course, through him.
But Prince Harry found a way to ensure that a part of Diana will always be present, and designed a ring that used 2 of his mother's diamonds with his own from Botswana. The ring is a beautiful legacy both to their union and Diana.
The ring is obviously yellow gold because that's her favourite, and the main stone itself are sourced from Botswana, and the little diamonds either side are from my mother's jewellery collection to make sure that she's with us on this crazy journey together. And
it's beautiful, and he designed it. It's incredible.
Meghan Markle has a special kind of sparkle. Her bright smile and demeanor have that Hollywood glamour. Her warmth and genuine openness will win over the British. You can't fake that.
This is the most important thing, in my view, that's happened to the royal family for centuries.
I think Meghan Markle is the best thing to happen to the monarchy in years. She's young, she understands the zeitgeist, she understands what people want, and she really connects with people in a way that we also saw with Princess Diana. And so I think that it's only a good thing that we have Meghan in there. She's sort of shaking off the cobwebs and moving the royal family firmly into the 21st century.
There's no denying that Meghan Markle's elegant fashion style turns heads wherever she goes. Even before her engagement to Prince Harry, Meghan's stylish appearance grabbed the attention of the fashion world. Since news broke of her relationship with Prince Harry, Meghan has continued to wear her favorite labels: Mother, Erdem, Line, and Misha Nunu, to name a few.
When they first made their public appearance announcing that they were engaged, she had on a white trench coat that was made by a Canadian company called Line. She orders a lot of her clothes from there. It's sold out within the hour. In her interview with Harry, chatting through the engagement and how they met, she was wearing a dress from an Italian company. Same thing, sold it within an hour.
Inherently, Markle has already shown that her love for fashion and attention-grabbing style can boost her humanitarian work, just like her fiancé's late mother, Diana.
I love Meghan. I think that it's amazing that she's very different from the British mold. I think that she's a breath of fresh air that's very necessary in the royal family. We've seen it with her in terms of how she dresses, how she wears pants to events, how she does her hair, you know, unlike, say, Kate Middleton or some of the other royals who always look very perfectly coiffed.
Meghan's style is frequently compared to her future sister-in-law.
Princess Kate is quintessentially English. You know, everything that she wore from when she was at university was very sort of twin set and pearls, very sort of Chelsea girl, that kind of feeling that it's very, you know, what you expect to read when you open up Horse and Hound or Tatler. You never see her in sweatshirts or sweatpants and some Uggs. Whereas someone like Meghan has been brought up on Uggs and sweatpants because obviously she's been on set so many times. So she's gone from looking quite, you know, offset when you are quite sort of dowdy and you don't really care about everything, to being on set where she's ultra glamorous, and you know, she's been at numerous award ceremonies, and she's also somebody who's modelled for magazines and modelled in fashion spreads.
With Kate, over the years, we've seen her come into her own. She's wearing these very expensive outfits, whereas with Meghan, we've seen her wear jeans, we've seen her wear ripped jeans, we've seen her looking very sort of normal and accessible when going to high-profile events, unlike Kate, who always looks very perfect.
The Duchess of Cambridge is also famous for her classic, modern style. There are many similarities. Both have the ability to influence sales with the Kate effect and the Meghan sparkle.
One thing that we've noticed with the style, first starting with Princess Diana and then Kate and now Meghan, is that all of these bits of clothing and these, you know, staple accessories and tops and dresses, they're so accessible, right? I mean, you can really quickly get online and find out where's that top from. There'll be a link to buy it right then and there.
I definitely think that Meghan, like Kate, has an effect when it comes to selling clothing. We've seen it when she wears something immediately. There are now style blogs devoted to Kate. There are now Twitter accounts devoted to Meghan.
They've already made headlines at a joint event with their elegant style.
Kate portrays something that people want. Meghan portrays something that is much more approachable, that people can get right away.
Some were concerned that a rivalry could be in the works, but it seems the two will have a close relationship, much like another royal wifey pairing.
I think it's impossible to not compare Kate and Meghan with Diana and Sarah. In the case of Diana, she was married to the heir, and then you have Sarah Ferguson. She's this breath of fresh air. You know, she's always in the news for doing sort of silly or dramatic things. She has a great sense of humor, and you really do see that comparison between Kate and Meghan, where Kate is a little more buttoned up, she has more restrictions, whereas Meghan is kind of the playful one. She's the new, bright, young, shiny thing.
We think Meghan meshes her own relaxed Californian fashion style beautifully with her new British role, and this is something uniquely hers. We also love that our fashion choices are diverse and inclusive, and touch on a desire to experience new trajectories.
Meghan Markle wears a lot more ready-wear type of clothing. And so what you're going to have is fashion designers that are making ready-wear attire where they can go ahead and produce it quickly, sell it, and then as soon as that inventory sells out, Meghan Markle will go ahead and put her Markle spin on it again, and then it will start a whole new trend of clothing along that ready-to-wear business attire. Meghan portrays something that people can get right away. And so it's something that people can find at their local department store, whether it's Nordstrom's or Macy's.
Oh, do I love
Guilty as charged.
online shop. Of course, especially with our hours too,
So
as admins,
easy.
right? It's like if I have downtime in my trailer.
Speaking of trying new things, Meghan is a huge fan of wine. Her favorite, a Tignanello, led Meghan to name her former blog, The Tig.
The namesake is from a wine called Tignanello, but in the States we sort of back the name and say Tignanello. And it was my first sip of wine where I said, oh my gosh, what is this? Like I said to the bartender, what am I drinking? He's like, just call it the Tig.
This moment revealed to Meghan that to live is to be curious and insatiable in living one's life. From then on, all aha moments became a Tig moment for Meghan.
Someone had always asked me about, fans especially once the show started, travel advice or food, restaurant advice, fashion of course. And I said, let me create a hub where I can have all of that stuff there that's really aspirational but attainable.
Meghan has remarked that the best part of discovering great wine is the adventure taken to find it, meeting the winemakers. However, Tignanillo is not her only favorite. Anything red, as she calls it, opening the door for the popular Central Coast Pinot Noir as well.
So Meghan being from California, I can see her bringing Harry on an adventure up here through the Central Coast. Winding roads, it's beautiful scenery. So I can see them coming, kind of finding the different spots that they like. Pinot Noir is a varietal, and it is one of those grapes that is very engaging and captures your. It's not surprising, that's one of her favorite ones. And cool climate Pinot Noirs tend to just be so beautiful. They have such pretty notes and cherries, cherry blossoms, some hints of raspberry, some red currants. It would definitely be something that I see Meghan and Prince Harry enjoying together.
Meghan is also a self-proclaimed foodie. Her philosophies on food and eating have the potential to become an incredibly positive influence on young people. Meghan advocates lifestyle eating over dieting and is open about her years of teenage angst about weight and beauty. We love that she's such a fantastic role model, but is also not afraid to burst out the treats now and then. Markle's instinctive humanitarian side led to her adoption of Bogart and Guy, her two canine companions.
I have two dogs that I've had for quite a long time, both my rescue pups, and one is now staying with very close friends, and my other little guy is, yes, he's in the UK. He's been here for a while. Okay.
They say that dogs have the innate ability to judge good and bad, and even the royal corgis, usually the toughest audience of all, according to Prince Harry, have embraced Meghan into the royal family.
For the last 33 years being barked at, this one walks in absolutely nothing.
Just laying on my feet during tea. It was very sweet.
And it's just like, oh.
That definitely scored a few points with the Queen.
Boom.
However, it hasn't all been smooth sailing for royal romances. Many eyebrows were raised when it was revealed that Meghan Markle was not only American, but a divorcee. This royal union is a case of love comes first, as it was with King Edward, whose actions may have helped pave the way for this love story to unfold.
The inevitable comparison between Meghan and Wallis Simpson has of course been made in the press because Meghan Markle will become the first American divorcee to marry into the royal family in 80 years. Fact, times have changed.
Of course, for some people, you know, that immediately creates parallels because they think of the last time an American wanted to marry into the royal family, which of course was Wallis Simpson. And people draw parallels and say, oh, but isn't it amazing how far we've moved on? And actually, I mean, yes, we have, but Edward VIII was king at the time that he wanted to marry Wallis Simpson.
His Royal Highness King Edward VIII's marriage to American divorcee Wallis Simpson in 1937 is one of the most significant romantic scandals in British history. So great was the monarch's love for Wallis Simpson that Edward abdicated the throne to marry her.
Edward was direct in line to the throne. He gave up his throne because he wasn't prepared to be king without, as he put it, the help and support of the woman he loved. So he abdicated, and they went off to Paris and got married and never lived happily ever after from then on.
There are striking similarities between King Edward VIII's marriage to Wallis Simpson and Harry's pending nuptials to Meghan Markle. Wallis was American, as is Markle. But there are interesting distinctions too.
Harry is fifth, soon to be sixth in line to the throne. So it's far less significant, the fact that he's marrying an American actress, a mixed race actress, a woman who's 36 and been married before.
Meghan is a very different person. She's been married before, she's a divorcee. Charles was married before, Camilla was married before. Both divorced, they got married.
For Edward and Wallis, marriage to a two-time divorcee was at the time immoral, and with World War II looming, the British people needed a strong monarch.
Harry, unlike his predecessor, Edward, is not heir to the throne. He's not king. And in fact, because there are now several heirs with William, he never will be king. When Edward wanted to marry Wallis Simpson, it was literally a constitutional crisis. It was, absolutely unfathomable to the people. In terms of Harry wanting to marry Meghan, you know, he's 5th or 6th in line for the throne. He's way down the line. There isn't really the worry that we'll have an American queen on the throne. So I think that Harry has a lot of flexibility and freedom in being able to marry for love instead of having to have an eye toward duty.
A lot of comparisons have been, you know, floated about Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson. Well, of course, that was in the 1930s, 1936. We're looking at a totally different royal family then. You know, this was a non-starter. But then, you know, Wallis Simpson was a divorcee, and there was some interesting history around that time. But the royal family have progressed, you know, following his abdication.
The responsibility of the monarch was to the Church of England, and the church had no time for a divorcee as future queen.
It was a stigma. You talked about it in hushed tones. If somebody was divorced, you thought, oh, no, I'm not terribly sure I can socialize with that person. It's no longer a stigma. It's a fact of life. You know, people get married, they don't like each other anymore, they get divorced. You know, we've moved a long way from the days in the 1930s when divorce was frowned upon by the Church of England.
Britain's royal past is intimately bound with religion. Even Meghan Markle, in 21st century Britain, was baptized before her wedding day. But no other union rocked a nation to its spiritual core than that of King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn in the 1500s. King Henry, already married to Queen Catherine of Aragon, decided Anne would be his and plotted to have his marriage to Queen Catherine made void. Rebelling against the Pope's intense opposition, King Henry married Boleyn in a secret ceremony. This marriage changed the religious culture of England forever. The Church of England came under the stewardship of the monarchy, and Roman Catholicism lost its footing.
Anne Boleyn, of course, was ultimately charged with adultery, incest and witchcraft, and then burnt. Or had a head chopped off, rather.
Since the ill-fated marriage of Anne Boleyn and King Henry, times have changed, and one need look no further than Prince Harry's very own brother, Prince William's modern-day romance with his college sweetheart, Kate Middleton. In fact, Harry could be thanking his older brother William for laying the foundation for a modern-day royal union.
It was actually Diana who told William and Harry to marry for love. You know, when they married, it should be for love. And I think that that's exactly what they've done. It's certainly what William's done, and it's what Harry is doing too.
William and Harry have learnt from the past royal weddings. They saw their mum unhappy in her wedding, and they didn't want that for themselves. I think that they've realized that they can be happy, and it's up to them to make themselves happy. And I think actually Queen Elizabeth has recognized that also, and that's why she's been so understanding.
You have to look at the choices that William and Harry have made and the women that they are with. Kate, a commoner, not of blue blood, not perhaps the aristocrat that we might have picked for Prince William, but that marriage and that relationship is and has been, you know, hugely successful for 10 years.
Now England's beloved Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, the paparazzi incessantly reported on Kate's lineage of coal miners, blue-collar workers, and the lack of any aristocracy.
From what I've seen of Meghan so far, if you were going to compare her to anyone, I wouldn't be comparing her to Kate, because I think they're two very different women. Yes, they're the same age. Yes, they've fallen in love with princes, but actually that's where the similarities end.
The American press is bound and determined to sort of pit Kate against Meghan. But the fact is, they're very different people.
Meghan marries into the royal family, a famous actress in her own right, a divorcee, she's got history, you know, there's a whole background to her, whereas, you know, Kate married in, I almost say, a blank canvas. You know, her longest term relationship of 10 years was with Prince William. She didn't have a full-time job as such.
Kate is a mother, soon to be mother of 3. I think that Kate has had an extraordinary burden being the only sort of young, visible royal in the spotlight. And now that Meghan is coming into the picture, there's room for Kate to kind of take a step back, hopefully to breathe a little.
We are delighted that Meghan Markle's fairy tale romance is a reflection of how far royal traditions have evolved, and we can't wait to see her sparkle on her wedding day.
Once the Cambridge's third baby arrives, Harry will move down the order of succession and he will become 6th in line to the throne. And because of that, it's incredibly unlikely that he is going to be king. So he has a very different role from William. So I think Meghan and Harry will be a different couple to William and Kate. They have different roles, different purposes. Nonetheless, both are meaningful. You know, Harry and Meghan have that freedom, I think, to perhaps push royal boundaries a little bit more than William and Kate would be able to do.
In a monarchy where the very Queen herself, in her 93rd year, her husband, 96, you know, yeah, they have a great longevity, but no one lives forever. So in the next decade, there are going to be huge changes, and Meghan and Harry will be front runners in that change, whether they go second to William, who might become king, or whether his father decides he doesn't want to be king, or whether the Americans get fed up with Camilla. I don't know, there are so many different options open at the moment that this sort of new group of royalty, of which Meghan is now part of, is going to be instrumental in the changes that lie ahead.
This engagement is definitely a sign of modernisation in the royal family. It's really shown them to be progressive. It's shown the Queen actually thinking, okay, I want my grandchildren to be happy. This is about happiness rather than protocol.
It's just a very different time for the monarchy, and William and Harry are unwilling to let these sort of old gray men at the palace tell them what to do.
Princess Diana wanted William and Harry to grow up as normal boys. Well, normal boys will, you know, travel the world in the early 2000s and go to Vegas and be in Canada and meet women from around the world.
With Meghan going to the royal family, it helps out the royals become a lot more approachable to not just the British, but the Americans. And so it almost makes the royals one of us, a little bit closer to becoming one of us.
After the excitement of the engagement announcement, the wedding day promises to deliver the stuff that fairy tales are made of.
This is a massive deal, and it's not just the day, you know, it's a really big run-up from everything.
It's a massive marketing platform for the UK.
This is much more than just a wedding, it's a cultural shift.
Courtiers have said that they want their day to be one of joy and happiness, and for the public to be as much a part of it as possible, and they will be. We know it's going to be televised.
For William's and Kate's wedding, all the royal pomp and circumstance was on display. Grand carriages, women in big hats, and a tiara for the princess-to-be. Harry and Meghan's big day will be equally as impressive.
She's going to be seen by billions of people. The whole world is going to take a picture of her and watch her. So it's very important to make sure that you look perfect. So she will rehearse her look probably 2 or 3 times before she actually gets to the day before the wedding.
You know, how life-changing is this? Well, it's a huge life changer. Because suddenly, you know, one minute you're Meghan Markle, the actress, and whatever, going anywhere. Next thing you're a princess of the realm of the United Kingdom.
You know, you've got to think about her. She's going to be seen from every angle. It's 360 Meghan Markle, you know. It's not just one angle.
Oh, Meghan, how are you feeling?
She has to think about everything. And what's great about her is having that TV background. She understands that. Having that red carpet, you know, readiness. She understands she has to look great from every angle.
Though having chosen a, quote, smaller venue, Windsor Castle, as opposed to Westminster Abbey, the amount of spectators and A-list guests will be out in droves.
It's going to be very interesting because the royal wedding won't be in London. First of all, it's going to be in Windsor, which is a beautiful place. But I think what's going to be very interesting is, first of all, how are the massive crowds going to be managed? Because that whole place is going to be full of so many tourists, so many people from London coming up and wanting to see or get a glimpse of the royal family.
For Meghan, there has been a great deal of speculation as to the designer of her special wedding gown and who exactly is on her guest list. She is known to have quite the A-list of friends and work associates.
I doubt whether she'll be wearing the dress that she wore in Suits, but I do think she'll be, and I think, you know, also there's a lot of, she's got to live up to what Princess Kate wore. you know, which is was a most amazing dress by Sarah Burton, you know, fantastic. And again, even with Pippa Middleton, you know, that dress was talked about for years afterwards. So I think there's a lot of pressure on her. And I think also she has to look traditionally English, but also, as we've just said, she's American. So American style is a little bit different from the UK style. So I suspect there'll be a bit of a fusion between the two, and hopefully the crew will be happy.
She'll probably tear a page out of Kate's book, actually. Lace is still very much in, and she's simple. It's a May wedding, so spring, but I don't think she'll get away with being too revealing. I think she'll probably still go for something long-sleeved.
The guest list, of course, is going to be much speculated upon in the months leading up to the wedding. I'm told that the Queen has told the couple that they are to draw up the list of who they want to be there. It's going to be a smaller wedding than William and Kate's. They had 2,000 people at Westminster Abbey. Meghan and Harry will have 800, which is still a sizable wedding. And of course, it's going to be fascinating to see who turns up. Meghan will bring that sort of injection of Hollywood. You know, I'm sure we will see some of her co-stars from Suits and actor friends from, you know, the years that she's worked in Hollywood. Of course, she's got very famous friends. She's close to Serena Williams, she's close to Boris Becker. Harry's got famous friends. Elton John is incredibly close to Prince Harry.
I suspect that Obama will be at the wedding, which will be quite interesting because he will be there and Trump won't be there.
Harry and Meghan are also causing a few headaches for the royal guard. Expect to see a few detours from the traditional wedding do's and don'ts.
The rumor on the street is that Meghan is going to be giving a speech at her own wedding, which is a big protocol no-no.
Regardless of what it took to arrive at this point in Harry and Meghan's relationship, one thing is for certain, that on May 19th, 2018, a Disney fairy tale will come to life as a prince turns a lovely young lady into a real-life princess. When Prince William wed Kate Middleton, millions of viewers worldwide tuned in to see the young prince choose his future queen. No one thought that his little brother's wedding would one day cause the same amount of anticipation and excitement.
All the hotels in Windsor are booked out, postcards, all the replica mugs.
But then again, Harry chose to turn an everyday American girl into a real-life princess.
It's a bit of a fairy tale story, the prince and the showgirl.
The fact that an American is marrying into the royal family is a bit of magic, I think, to the royal family, that sprinkling of stardust.
It's the princess fairy tale come to life.
Who wouldn't want to celebrate something straight out of a Disney flick?
This is that childhood kind of Cinderella story.
The story with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry has opened a lot of young girls' eyes to showing that this can happen to them. They can be a princess.
Everybody wants to experience that. Everyone wants to feel that.
Here's the breakdown from the venue, the cake, and even an astrological analysis of the bride and groom.
This is a relationship that they will fight for.
They can't stop making eye contact with each other. They hold hands the whole time.
A wedding that will not only be celebrated around the world, but heralds an oncoming change in one of the longest reigning royal families.
This is much more than just a wedding. It's a cultural shift.
It's an incredible love story, isn't it?
I mean, this is every little girl's dream.
Since the November 2017 announcement of the royal engagement hit the news, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's romance has become a mainstay of daily media consumption.
I think the British press was brutal, absolutely ruthless. Just be so ugly and so rude and bullies and trolls, it's awful.
Speculation on the success of the forthcoming royal marriage began in earnest. But Markle is undoubtedly a perfect fit for Harry and life as a British royal.
They're changing their tune now that Harry's standing by her side and saying, this is going to be my wife. And there's going to be a lot of coverage around this wedding. So they now don't want to then step back into that role and say, hey, remember all those awful things I said about Meghan? Well, now we're really happy for them.
She has shown the world that she's ready to hit the ground running.
I think that in Meghan, Harry has found his perfect woman. The fact that they met on a blind date, it wasn't someone who was chasing him up to be with him like 1,000,001 women in England who saw him as the most eligible bachelor. They share a love of sports, that they went to witness the Invictus Games. She does a lot of humanitarian work that Harry's obviously a proud supporter of also. And I think that together, the two of them actually make the absolute dream team.
It really is the true Hollywood story, the prince and the showgirl, you know, coming together. And I think it's a great story. You know, Meghan is a celebrity. She understands what it's like to be in the public eye. So it's not like Princess Kate, who sort of came into it from nothing. You know, Meghan knows what her best angle is. She knows how to look great. She knows how to appear in front of millions of people.
I've just been here for 3 months, right? And in that amount of time, but with that said, for me, it's very important to, once you hit the ground running, even if you're doing it quietly behind the scenes, which is what I've focused my energy on thus far, is meeting with the right people, meeting with the right organizations behind the scenes quietly, learning as much as I can so that I can maximize the opportunity we have here to really make an impact.
If moving to another country, planning a wedding, and joining the British monarchy wasn't enough, Markle dove into public life spectacularly, charming the pants off people from London to Belfast.
Let's be honest, you know, being a royal, you are playing a role. And that's just the way it is. And I think that Meghan is trained with that, already being an actress in America. She's playing a role, and that's whether she's on camera or off here.
Looking at what's taken place so far, looking at the reaction that they received in Nottingham, people were delighted.
In a similar approach to that of Lady Diana, Meghan has been quietly and secretly exploring ways to make a difference as a royal family member. Earlier this year, she visited survivors of the Grenfell Tower tragedy and the nearby mosque, which served as a triage base when the tragedy occurred.
It shows that Meghan's a brave person. The fact she went to the Grenfell Tower where there'd been such appalling loss of life in such awful circumstances, it proves that she's got the courage to go and face people like that.
The secret visit to the Grenfell Tower fire victims was unofficial and an eye-opener for critics who may have doubted her motives for public life.
We don't know how that was organised. It does seem it was a private visit, but it also emerged quite quickly in the press. It didn't do her any harm that she was doing that. So there's a bit of PR going on here as well.
As a celebrity, as a TV star already, she is already under the scrutiny of the media. She is already in the public eye. She's already walking red carpets. She's used to this, but she also knows that there is expectations that come with that.
Palace have been very clever in the way they presented Meghan to the world, this sort of humanitarian figure. But it says to me that she's quite courageous. She's happy to face down difficult situations and can cope with it.
Valentine's Day, a favorite of Meghan's, was spent in Edinburgh with Harry as part of an official royal visit. We hope the couple found some time for each other between a tour of Edinburgh Castle, a visit to a social Bites Cafe for homeless youth, and a celebration for the Scottish Year of Young People. As the May wedding date drew closer, Markle's sleeves were rolled up in Northern Ireland with Prince Harry. The pair were greeted with typical Northern Irish hospitality, visiting the Titanic Center, stopping for lunch at the famous Crown Liquor Saloon, and receiving a joyful welcome when they surprised school children at the Amaze the Space Peace Initiative, a program created by Harry. Perhaps the most insightful and telling appearance yet was Markle's debut with the first annual Royal Foundation Forum alongside Prince Harry, Prince William, and the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton.
When we first started it, it started as a very small idea with Harry and I scratching our heads going, how can we do something that's going to help us in the future? How are we going to build something that's going to provide almost a vehicle to allow us to impact in charitable areas? Because it was quite difficult at the time. Harry and I used to go to a lot of engagements and see these incredible charities doing really great work, but felt that we could give more, and how could we do that? And so the foundation idea sort of bubbled up as a sort of vehicle to be able to do more when we walked away from these engagements.
This forum was formed by Harry, William, and Kate, with Meghan joining them as the fourth member. The Fab Four had finally made their debut.
I think that these are four very strong individuals. Kate, I think, has been very clever in the way that she's deferred to William and she's developed her own interests within the foundation. Harry will continue doing his interests. I think it's very important that everything is cleared by that they're doing up towards William, because he is going to be the future king, and he is in terms of the way the royal family work, he's the top dog. I'm not sure that Meghan's necessarily got that. She was very, very well outspoken at that meeting, and sometimes it's best to listen and wait and see.
Here, Markle ensured that the doubters could doubt no more. With poise and grace, Markle gave the world a glimpse of her future potential in this arena, showing us her voice, ambition for humanitarian work, and her steadfast commitment to women and girls.
What's interesting is I hear a lot of people saying, when speaking about girls' empowerment, finding and knowing their worth, or women's empowerment as well, you'll often hear people say, well, you're helping women find their voices. And I fundamentally disagree with that, because women don't need to find a voice. They have a voice, they need to feel empowered to use it, and people need to be encouraged to listen.
The first forum focused on mental illness and discussed the Heads Together initiative.
As family, do you ever have disagreements about things?
Oh, yes. Healthy disagreement.
Okay, the last thing you disagreed on, how do you resolve it?
I can't remember, they come so thick and fast.
The initiative has been warmly received by the British people and lauded as a success for triggering an ongoing conversation on mental illness, an often taboo social issue, especially in the UK. Leave it to Diana's boys and their other halves to bring light to an issue usually covered in darkness.
Heads Together is an amazing convening power, but also the perception of mental health now across this country and also in other countries has changed, without a doubt. And I think the timing was absolutely perfect on that.
I think as Meghan will become a member of the royal household, it'll be so interesting to see what influence she brings to the royal family, how she makes it progressive, what she wants to do, because she's very entrepreneurial, she's very clever, she's very diplomatic, she's also very philanthropic too. So she'll want to also talk about stuff that she's been passionate about, and I think that will lead to a much more progressive, passionate royal family that we'll feel that we actually know a bit more about.
What is incredibly apparent is the tight connection between Harry and Meghan. The loved-up couple swear it was love at first sight. Well, according to a renowned astrologer and psychic, Calvin Witcher, it was also written in the stars.
She is a Leo sun, Libra moon, Leo rising. Leos are very dynamic. They are very alluring, and one of the things about Leos that when they come into a room, you see them, you notice them. They have this very strong appeal. He is with so much of his chart, with the Virgo sun, the moon Taurus, and then even Capricorn in his rising sign. It actually makes for an interesting dynamic. Virgos tend to be very detail-oriented, very analytical in nature oftentimes. But the thing about Virgos is that they are very calculated in their decision making. So when they do make a decision, they're precise. They know exactly what they're getting into. So someone like Prince Harry knew what he was getting into. He made the decision. It was good for him.
It wasn't always a match made in heaven for Harry. He's had his share of ups and downs, especially when it came to a certain Libra named Chelsea Davy. Most thought that she would be Harry's forever love.
With the Libra side of things, with her probably not wanting to be in the spotlight a lot, that could just pose some challenges with the dynamic of the relationship, where she wanted to keep him to himself, and he had the duty to the family to be out into the public, but he needed someone that was a really strong match for that, almost that could support him when he went out, emotionally and also just regarding life in general. The challenges that comes with being a Virgo are they can tend to be very critical. They can be detail-oriented, but sometimes maybe a little stubborn in that their approach. in how they do things. They can see things but not specifically want to do anything about it. So this would be the person that sees that the house needs to be cleaned, but maybe they don't want to pick up the clothes themselves.
But as it came to be, what a Leo wants, a Leo gets, giving Harry the love and support he has longed for.
Leos are interesting. Some of the challenges that will come up is that they like to be first. They like to be the center of attention. They like to be known. They like to be appreciated. And so sometimes if that doesn't occur like it's needed, then sometimes they can be a little aggressive, a little too assertive. Sometimes you may see anger that may show up in that dynamic, or sometimes maybe being a little bit pushy. I see some interesting things in their numerological charts, even more so than their astrological charts. He's a life path number 1, she's a life path number 4. So regarding that, his life path number 1, he's very strong and independent. He's a forerunner. He's meant to do things that are different. He's meant to start things that no one else has ever started before. Now with her, she's a number 4 life path, which is all about structure. It's all about support. So she could be that support to him even though she's leading in so many different areas. I believe that they knew each other in another life. There are some things that are really interesting. I would not be surprised if that they had conversations saying that it was love at first sight. I would not be surprised if they said that it felt like it was meant to be. A lot of that numerological chart, and astrology too, really lends to probably in a past life they were together. Interesting enough, in their past life, they probably didn't work that well together. They probably didn't synergize as well as they could have together because of some of the karmic lessons that show up in their numerology chart. But now their numerology shows that they're kind of in sync.
As excitement builds for the wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, it's impossible to ignore the refreshing newness of this non-traditional British royal pairing.
I mean, royal weddings are always important points to kind of reaffirm the dynasty as a showpiece for the power and the stability that comes with the royal family. There's a kind of showpiece for what the country represents.
She is from a divorced family. She's worked her tail off to make it in Hollywood, which if you make it in Hollywood and you make it on a show, we all know where you've been. It is so tough to do.
She's not exactly the most conventional royal bride. She's divorcee, mixed race. The relationship's been very quick.
She's got to have a thick skin. She's been through a lot. She's seen the world. She's experienced other cultures.
Some of the newspapers aren't necessarily using her on the front pages because they're saying that she doesn't necessarily appeal to their audience. A lot of the TV and online media groups say fantastic, great response, which does suggest there's some sort of divide age-wise, maybe, in the way that she's being looked.
There's no doubt that this royal wedding will be good for the UK economy, that it will be good press around the world for the UK, that it will have a kind of soft diplomatic role, the royal family. They already do, and they already are being wheeled out to kind of, in many cases, try and be a kind of softer side of diplomacy in the midst of all the Brexit negotiations. We've seen the royal family doing kind of tours of Europe to kind of show a different face of the UK.
We don't have royal families in America, and that's just not something that, America has never been that way. And there are many royal families, but this is the biggest of the royals. So I think seeing an American marry into this type of family, it gives us oh yeah, we did it. We're part of this too.
How did royal protocol reach this unprecedented level of relaxation? History. There are other royal torchbearers to thank for this new era of royal matrimony.
From the solemnity of the Abbey, the great pageant starts toward Buckingham Palace, the young couple now occupying the state coach.
Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth tackled staunch opposition when she revealed her intention to marry Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark.
On the balcony where kings and queens have appeared unnumbered times on great occasions, the young couple happily share the supreme day of their lives with their countrymen.
This royal union unwittingly paved the way for the incredibly scrutinized marriage of Prince William to his college roommate, Kate Middleton. Kate, a commoner, and with no royal lineage, became a target of royal critics and the paparazzi.
William and Kate even took legal action when she was taken, photographs of her were taken topless. But I think that you find that Kate was worried about the involvement of the paparazzi with her children, pushed very hard on William as well.
With 3 out of 4 of Queen Elizabeth's children divorced, who could deny this young couple? The marriage was supported not only by the royal family, but by more than 2 billion people worldwide.
For a long time, the idea of family became quite toxic for the royal family. I mean, it used to be, if we think back to the Victorian era, the thing that the monarchy was a royal family, and they became the kind of preeminent family in the country. And Albert and Victoria and the children, they were looked upon as this kind of ideal family, and that's what the monarchy traded on, being this kind of family monarchy. The problem then became, particularly in the 80s and 90s, when the Queen's children's marriages were folding, that actually the idea that the royal family was somehow a kind of family that we should all aspire to, and somehow that mirrored our lives, and that was somehow it all felt problematic. And so that the whole brand got quite mixed and it got quite toxic. But in recent years, there's been a kind of reaffirmation of family.
William and Harry have learnt from the past royal wedding. They saw their mum unhappy in her wedding, and they didn't want that for themselves.
William and Kate are very much a young family with 2 children, soon to be 3 children, and of course now Harry and Meghan. So there is a sense that family and relationships are now being brought back.
They've realized that they can be happy, and it's up to them to make themselves happy, and I think actually Queen Elizabeth has recognized that also, and that's why she's been so understanding.
Kate became the Duchess of Cambridge and the first commoner since 1660 to marry into the British royal family.
Royals have married commoners before. Charles has married a commoner, a divorcee. Charles married, to all intents and purposes, his first wife, a commoner. Yes, she was aristocracy, but she wasn't royal. William married a commoner. Princess Margaret married a commoner. So it's not new.
Number one, there are no German princesses. There are no real, you've got to get lucky if you want them to marry into the royal family and hope that there's another royal family, hope there's some love connection. 2, I think that those days is pretty much gone.
Not only did William's choice turn a few royal heads, but so did Kate's now iconic wedding dress. Designed by Sarah Burton of Alexander McQueen, the dress won over critics around the globe.
I think she got inspired by Grace Kelly's dress. She had a cummerbund made of satin and a 9-foot train. It was such a princess dress.
Prince Charles's failed marriage to Lady Diana became a media sensation when, in a revealing interview, Diana revealed Charles's affair with Camilla Parker Bowles.
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
In the early years of her marriage, no one thought that the young Lady Diana Spencer would later spend years in turmoil due to her failed marriage. In fact, Diana's wedding to Charles was right out of a Disney film, complete with a fairy tale dress to match.
Princess Diana's dress, to me, reflected the 1980s. It was a poofy dress made of taffeta, so very iridescent. She was very dramatic, had the 25-foot train, didn't fit in, all of the carriage. It was beautiful, and it was a timeless piece also.
Alas, Diana's marriage did not last, and predictably, Prince Charles eventually married Camilla. It took years for Charles to secure the Queen's approval.
Charles and Camilla have that lingering baggage of the relationship as it evolved in its early days and the implications for Diana and so on.
As divorcees, their wedding was a far cry from the pomp and ceremony of a traditional royal celebration. But their nuptials were a sign that times have changed. Meghan Markle need not worry thanks to the royal divorcees that have gone before her.
The Queen's children's marriages haven't been successful. And so when the Queen found out about Meghan and Harry and he told her that this romance was serious, I was told that she was very happy for him, that really all she wants is for her children and of course her grandchildren to be happy.
With the issue of divorcee status a non-event, we eagerly turn to speculation on the dress, hats, and design. Royal correspondents and betting houses are endlessly speculating on who the chosen designer might be.
Her Canadian friend Jessica Mulrooney, who has helped style her in the past, will be somebody to help her style her wedding dress as well, because she has been known to work on weddings as well. That is the wife to ex-Prime Minister Brian Mulroney's son, Ben Mulroney. And they'll probably be in attendance at the wedding. I'm assuming that she's helped style her for numerous occasions, so I'm sure she's also leaning on Jess for some help right now.
No one knows the pressure of designing the perfect celebrity wedding gown than designers Sally and Danielle Denijou. Having recently joined forces with Italian designer Rosella Espinove on their new collection, they know what it takes for making a bride shine on her special day.
I think if it was a celebrity wedding, she could be more of herself. She could, enhance her personality and be able to wear what she wants to wear. But I feel as though because it is a royal wedding and there are rules, she's going to have to also think of the venue, St. George Cathedral, that she's going to show respect to the Queen and to the rules.
And I think the train of her dress will probably have a petticoat or some type of tulle underneath it to add to the dramatic effect, because when she steps into the St. George Chapel, everyone's gonna have all eyes on her and it's gonna have to be a dramatic effect.
I think it's gonna be really interesting after the wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle on exactly how much Markle effect is gonna happen and when.
The wedding dress, it's the best thing that you could get to do in your whole career as a designer.
It will start a whole new trend of clothing.
If it's like history repeating itself, I'm assuming, like Kate, it's going to happen immediately. The moment that Kate walked out in her wedding dress with sleeves in wedding dresses became very, very popular right after that.
Kate's dress was copied so many times in different formats, different materials.
Meghan stepped into the spotlight on May 19th and revealed her wedding gown to 1 billion spectators. A global design frenzy occurred.
Everybody would want to be dressing Meghan from the moment she appears on her wedding day. It's going to be photographed, televised.
Her effect is going to be huge, just like any celebrity. The difference is she's a princess, and that is going to make a huge difference.
Meghan has established herself as a bankable favorite for style trendsetting, and the fashion industry is standing at attention.
What you're going to have is fashion designers that are making ready-wear attire where they can go ahead and produce it quickly and manufacture it quickly, sell it, and then as soon as that inventory sells out, Meghan Markle will go ahead and put her Markle spin on it again.
As a Hollywood actress, Meghan had become well known for her style. But as a future royal, her accessible, polished looks are triggering fashion sales on a planetary scale.
This is much more than just a wedding. It's a cultural shift.
Meghan will keep her individual style and casual chic. It will be elevated because she has access to every single brand in the world, really.
What people will tune into are going to be the fashion trends. People will tune into what happens culturally, who's going to be there, and who else is accepting of the wedding in the new royal family.
Dress design has played a vital role in the royal weddings, especially when tying two nations together.
In the medieval period, the early modern period, royal marriages were a way to create diplomatic alliances. So, it was really, really important.
Queen Elizabeth's dress was a symbol of her monarchy of Great Britain and Commonwealth, but was subjected to criticism due to the elaborate design so soon after World War II.
It was 2 years off of World War II. And people were still standing in line waiting for rationings. It was a time period that they had to be very careful about not sending a message to people in the UK that they were spending all of this money when people were still really struggling. I think now times are definitely very different, but I still think that Meghan has a little bit of that thought in her.
A royal wedding dress should please the people, stand up to the fashion test, and look beautiful from behind. But more importantly, a royal wedding dress becomes a symbolic measure of the union politically, socially, and becomes a critical part of the historical record. No pressure, Meghan.
Before newspapers and television cameras, it was about ambassadors coming to a royal wedding and then writing back to their foreign courts about the splendour of the wedding, and that was seen as a kind of indication of the strength and the power and the wealth of a country.
This wedding will be actually a really happy time for the nation. We've had a lot of doom and gloom with Brexit. The economic forecast isn't particularly bright.
While Meghan has the difficult task of choosing the right design for her dress, the rest of the wedding guests can have fun working on their fashion.
What do you wear to a royal wedding? I mean, that's so hard, is it not? That is so hard. That's probably the hardest task ever in your fashion life.
And an essential part of any woman's outfit is a hat.
Americans are gonna have the hardest time, I will tell you that. They are going to say, do I wear a hat or do I not wear a hat? I mean, that is gonna be the question.
The Brits love their hats, and this event will be no exception. Hat design for any formal occasion is taken seriously, and a royal wedding, even more so. From large to small, cool to narrow, flat or highly angled, hats allow a splash of playfulness, but there should never be any outdoing the bride.
I think you will see a lot of hats, a lot of fascinators. I think that we'll see a lot of pastels, a lot of pearls. I think that Americans, though, are gonna kind of take on the same personality of Meghan, a little bit of this is who we are and she's one of us and we're going to represent that.
Meghan Markle is not the first actress or American to marry into a royal family. When American actress Grace Kelly married Prince Rainier III of Monaco in 1956. Monaco was politically and financially turbulent. Grace Kelly's poise and elegance brought a refreshing change and a welcome diversion to the small country. She wasn't born a royal, but she was Hollywood royalty.
Grace Kelly dress is so timeless. The wedding gown was a gift from her friend, Helen Rose, and she brought the dress, I believe, from America, and then they worked on it, and she had 2 petticoats underneath. It was made of taffeta and had Brussels rose lace that was 125 years old. It has held its time, I think. It's one of the most beautiful dresses.
If I was to compare Meghan to a royal bride of the past, it'd probably be, in some ways, maybe Grace Kelly, because obviously they were both actresses and film stars, so they married into a very different kind of establishment. But what was great about Grace Kelly was that she was somebody who was empathetic and sympathetic, and the general public fell in love with those people.
It's a useful comparison to look at Princess Grace, and when she married into the Monaco royal family, she had to really give up the life that she had always known. You know, she was coming from Hollywood to a very small principality, Monaco, and actually what she did was she put Monaco on the map.
Grace may have paved the way for Meghan, but the young bride will carve out her own path in this new life.
Meghan's not going to put the UK on the map. You know, we are on the map. The royal family is very famous. But I think in the same way that Princess Grace brought us a bit of magic, I think, to the royal family, that sprinkling of stardust, I think you're going to see the same with Meghan.
Meghan is a free spirit, so I can definitely see her being cautious about the things that she agrees to do, but then also living out truly what she believes in. So I think it's going to be an interesting mix this time around.
Meghan Markle can be described as a bit of a health nut. Her now disabled blog, The Tig, gave several tips on how to have a healthy lifestyle.
There was so much more that I wanted to share, and I really do have an organic and deep love of travel and of food.
Though all brides will lose some weight before their big day, Meghan incorporates healthy eating and juicing on a daily basis.
Meghan's been getting into great shape recently. That the combination of the vegan diet 5 days a week and the juicing, veganism and vegetarian options are becoming more and more popular and increasingly easier to gain access to, especially in restaurants and eating out now. Being vegan and following a vegan vegan diet done properly with some structure means that you could benefit from more fiber, more magnesium.
Her eating habits and healthy outlook on life has also rubbed off on Harry. Recently, the young prince looked pretty buff as his wedding day approached.
If one partner is following a routine like a vegan diet or any dietary changes, it's always more effective if both partners are involved. A diet or an effort to achieve a physique change can be hindered by partner not being on board in full. And actually, if Harry's benefiting from anything that Meghan's doing, then that can only be a good thing if both of them feel confident going into the wedding going forwards.
In addition to her healthy eating habits, Meghan also incorporates yoga as part of her daily routine, mostly thanks to her mom, who is a yoga coach in Los Angeles.
Yoga is something that could have a massive benefit to someone pre-wedding. If you think about the stress involved of planning a wedding, the anxious, yoga is renowned for being quite relaxing, a lot of blood flow, good for mental health, reducing stress. Big breath in and down again. Relax. If she's doing yoga, then yoga can only have a positive effect on this because from my experience, it's normally flexibility or mobility for someone's range of movement in exercise, or if they can hold certain positions in exercise, that actually has a big impact on how effective exercise routines can be.
Yeah, then relax.
This May, Windsor Castle, a residence of English and British monarchs for nearly 1,000 years, will become a hive of activity, teeming with members of the royal household. The task at hand? The wedding of Prince Harry to Meghan Markle, a fairy tale romance that has captured the global media attention.
It's going to be very interesting because the royal wedding won't be in London. First of all, it's going to be in Windsor, which is a beautiful place. But I think what's going to be very interesting is, first of all, how are the massive crowds going to be managed? Because that whole place is going to be full of so many tourists, so many people from London coming up and wanting to see or get a glimpse of the royal family.
All the hotels in Windsor are booked out, postcards, all the replica mugs.
Built in the 11th century by William the Conqueror, Windsor Castle is the oldest inhabited royal abode in Europe. Its history so rich and long that it requires a full operation of historians and curators to manage.
Windsor Castle was built by orders of William the Conqueror, who came to England in 1066. There was a royal palace in what is now called Old Windsor, which was then just Windsor. But William decided to build his castle on this outcrop on the hill, and a much larger. It is actually the largest lived-in castle in the world.
From its majestic grounds to its ornate interior and former inhabitants, there's no doubt that its history could give new meaning to the saying, if the walls could talk.
Virtually all kings and queens of England lived there at some time, and of course it is one of our Queen's favourite residents.
One subject causing a lot of talk is the cost of this royal wedding. Event planning professionals estimate that with security, the celebration could cost upward of $42 million.
We're living through very grave times where terrorism is rife, and if you have a big wedding in London, it becomes a security nightmare. If you have a wedding, albeit not as big, at Windsor, security is containable. Windsor Castle is containable.
The security at the wedding is absolutely over the top almost. Windsor will be locked down for the wedding.
As far as a drive through, a carriage drive or a walkabout through the streets of Windsor, that is containable. It is not a nightmare as it would be in London because you've got a long route, say from Buckingham Palace through to Westminster Abbey. It has to be contained. It means a lot of police on the ground. And who pays for that? At the end of the day, it's a taxpayer. It is a lot of money.
The royal family will pick up the tab for most of the traditional elements, and Meghan, widely admired for her fashion style, is rumored to be paying for her gown. But British taxpayers will foot the bill on the most expensive aspect of all, security.
The Queen and the Prince of Wales have said that they'll be covering the cost of the wedding and the reception, so that will not be met by the taxpayer. But of course, the biggest bill at any royal wedding is always going to be security. It was a huge bill of millions of pounds for William and Kate's wedding.
The G20, United Nations Assembly, and the Olympics are all working examples of costly and intense 21st century security. A wedding is an occasion that, for many, would not fall into this category of importance and cost.
Don't let's downplay Meghan and Harry's wedding. It's not going to be Westminster Abbey. It's not going to be St Paul's Cathedral. I personally don't think that means anything in terms of the impact it will have. From a security standpoint, it'll be much easier because Windsor Castle itself is a secure zone. The policing of it, there is a template for that we'll improve upon and work upon. So in that sense, it's a very good move.
You might expect it to be slightly smaller at Windsor because obviously the venue is very different from central London and it's going to be a smaller wedding ceremony, but security is still going to be paramount.
Windsor Castle means it's smaller, it's nicer, it's containable. So it's not as big a threat having it at Windsor as it would be having it in the centre of London.
Supporters, however, are quick to point out that security is not only for the safety of the royals and their guests, but for the vast numbers of Brits and tourists who will turn out for the celebration.
We're from Los Angeles, California.
Yes, both of us.
Upstate New York.
Hi.
Come and see the big shindig that's going to happen.
The wedding, yes. We're happy for her, but we feel like he picked the wrong American. I was free. I'm not now, though, but I was free last year.
The whole operation will be incredibly tight and will make use of a computer drone surveillance system, mounted police, and airport-style security screenings.
The roads are closed from 8 o'clock in the morning. There's so much police presence. We've never had this before.
Just during the wedding itself, and then reopen probably about 1, 2 o'clock. And then we will have 92,000 people descending on Park Street.
Hopefully the bill will be offset by all the tourism and that boom in tourism trade that will come Britain's way as a result of the royal wedding. We certainly saw that back in 2011.
Oh, it's been fantastic. Worldwide coverage, the people.
We're expecting between 25 and 30,000 people on the green over here.
All over the world, Mexico, Brazil, Norway, Japan, America, Australia.
While Harry and Meghan could have married in the high-profile Westminster Abbey, they asked permission from the Queen to have their wedding performed in the St. George's Chapel of Windsor Castle. Their decision caused public curiosity to swell, and it became apparent that, like Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth herself, Windsor is important to Harry and Meghan.
Windsor Castle essentially is the Queen's home. Buckingham Palace, if you like, is the office. And if she's going to spend anywhere in the evening, that's going to be there, because behind the walls of the castle, you have the state apartments, you've got her private apartments, and that really is the way that she lives.
Queen Elizabeth's mother, father, and sister's funerals were all held at St. George's Chapel. Harry's father's second marriage service was performed just down the road at Windsor Guildhall. But the prayer and dedication service for Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall were conducted at St. George's.
It's seen as the seat of the royal family. It's been there since the days of William the Conqueror, and also when it came to the royal family changing their name from Saxe-Coburg-Gotha because it was too Germanic during the First World War. When they were looking for a name, they had others thrown in there like Plantagenet, which had been there before, Stuart, and they chose Windsor because to them, Windsor suggested very much solid foundations of the royal family, the solid foundations of the castle.
These family ties are a part of what binds Harry to Windsor Castle. But for the once wild prince, relationship to place might run deeper. There are real memories here for Harry of growing up, learning to ride horses, and it was just a short walk from school for visits with his grandmother.
Harry was based at Windsor with his regiment. He's also went to school around the corner at Eton College. And apparently Meghan and Harry spent a lot of time romancing each other in Frogmore, what used to be the Duke of Windsor, Edward VIII's estate, and apparently spent a lot of time there.
I think it's really great that they've decided to do it like this. I think it changes the tradition, and again, it shows that they aren't the normal royal couple. They want to change things around, and they wanted to have it at Windsor where they feel it's more intimate.
A place for both happy and solemn occasions, Windsor Castle has also seen its fair share of tragedy. In 1992, a fire burned and destroyed a significant portion of the Upper Ward section, including the private chapel and approximately 100 staterooms.
A shock and horror in the fact that it took hold so quickly. I mean, I happened to be around the castle when it started, and I heard the fire alarm, and some 2 or 3 minutes later, when I came out of the room that I was actually in, you could see the smoke, not as extensive as it is now, but you could definitely see it. What was your mother's reaction? Her Majesty was shocked.
The Queen was devastated, but she was also very much hands-on. She was there, she was taking out valuables, there were her sons there was her husband there, they were all helping.
The fire burned for 15 hours and needed several hundred staff and firefighters to contain it. It devastated the Queen, who grew up with Windsor Castle as a significant part of her life and her family's history, but a portion of which is now gone forever.
It spread very, very rapidly and destroyed a very significant part of the castle.
The Windsor Castle fire caused much controversy due to the extensive and costly restorations that it would need. Politicians and the British public wanted to know who will pay. The issues over money and restoration triggered the Queen's decision to allow tourism to pay for the cost of renovations. And now the public can experience Windsor Castle in person.
If you go into the castle today, it's absolutely beautifully restored exactly to what it was before the fire.
We are sure that with a national treasure like Windsor, its people are only too happy to do their bit in return for experiencing a priceless piece of history. But it is not only Windsor Castle that is full of rich history. Berkshire County, in which it sits, is one of the most beautiful counties in England and one of the original historic counties formed and governed by the Normans in the Middle Ages. It was also recognized as a royal county by the Queen in 1957 due to Westminster Castle sitting within its modern-day border.
The Queen's very comfortable there as well, because remember, the Queen will be 92 by the time, or just about 92 by the time they get married. And that's pretty old. And obviously Prince Philip will be nearly 98, I think. So, you know, they've got to think about the rest of the family, not just themselves.
There's no doubt that Berkshire is an excellent choice. And as we've discovered, it has unique connections to the younger members of the royal family, from school to sport to dating and family. Kate Middleton is from Berkshire, and her mother and father still live nearby. In fact, Will and Kate have been spotted by patrons of Pot Kiln Pub, a country favorite featuring fresh game meats and local beverages.
Pot Kiln is a quintessentially English pub. It has got beers that were brewed here. It's got food that is actually reared here in the woods. We sit in the midst of 9,000 acres of farmland and woodland, and that's quite unique. Our back larder is basically all the wild food and game you can eat. And very, very much at the heart of our menu and our philosophy and our culture is compassionate farming and husbandry. We are very focused on wild food and quintessential British dishes. The Middletons have been coming here for years because they've had their own home just up the road from here. And they come because it's a place where they can feel private, where they can feel they can entertain themselves and be looked after, but still be around their familiar friends and family. The royal family have come from William to Kate to Harry. They've all been here at some point in time. When any of the royal family do come, they just come and blend. They just sit in, and while others may look and watch and think, they just the other day they were here, moved the tables aside, started to play darts. Probably significantly, there's a very big difference that's relevant to the royal family, is history over nostalgia. Many people think of history, that doesn't drive an emotion, but actually nostalgia, that which we've experienced with grandparents or royal families and friends, they unpack an envelope of emotions. Been quite a buzz about the forthcoming marriage of Meghan and Harry because, of course, part of the family lives around here, so I think it lifts people's spirits. At one time I was not someone who wanted to think or talk much about the royal family, but I've learnt something from being here and getting to know Carol and Michael, that actually they do bring a lot of spirit and enthusiasm to people's lives. So yes, they're a lovely balanced family. They're a very, very family-focused family where they are very joined and bonded.
Redefining royalty in Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's world will continue immediately after their wedding vows are complete, with a tradition-breaking stand-up reception.
From what I've heard, there's probably going to be about 600 guests at the actual wedding service, but I know that it is going to be a private royal reception. So I think that it will be a small 200 guest maybe list of the actual reception, and I think it will follow tradition. And I think Meghan is going to honor that and want that for the family.
I think she will really show her personality on her reception.
It's going to be elegant. I think it's going to have all the royal traditions of the past of their family.
It's going to be completely unexpected. I wonder if there will be a ton of embellishment.
Meghan and her prince, fast becoming known as the Royal Rebels, have been involved in every step of the menu design, have attended tastings.
The couple were involved in tasting everything. They've been involved in every detail.
They have also requested that each dish is created from as many local and seasonal ingredients as possible. Royal chef Mark Flanagan and his team couldn't be happier with this request because the timing coincides perfectly with seasonal British produce at its succulent best.
The couple wanted us to make sure that we used all the local seasonal produce as much as possible throughout their menu. This recent good weather is really helping us to achieve that.
In fact, much of the fresh food will be harvested from the Queen's estates. It doesn't get more local than that.
You don't get many opportunities in your lifetime to do a royal wedding, so this is very, very special. You know, the care, the attention and the details of everything, it really is very exciting.
Guests will enjoy 2-bite morsels and bowl food easily devoured while mingling. More importantly, Harry and Meghan will be able to do the same.
Here I'm preparing the milk chocolate truffles with a lovely milk and kirsch centre. This is a typical item that we prepare for our receptions and private parties.
Then, just when guests might be thinking they couldn't eat another bite, the rebelliousness continues with the cutting of a wedding cake that blows tradition right out of the water.
Being a foodie, I think Meghan is going to have a little bit of influence. I don't know that the cake is gluten-free or anything like that.
Claire Patak, a Californian raised pastry chef, has been asked to make the lemon elderflower cake, which will be smothered in buttercream, then decorated with fresh edible flowers.
What I know is that Meghan has chosen a cake that is a little more American than a typical royal wedding cake in the past. This one is going to be a lemon buttercream from what I hear. So I absolutely think they're gonna cut into this cake and everybody's gonna have a piece. So that's gonna be fun.
Chef Tony Sansalone, renowned celebrity cake specialist at the iconic Driscoll Hotel in Austin, Texas, understands the importance of getting a wedding cake right.
I love the floral idea with the elderflower. I love the flavor combinations. It's much more seasonally inspired, being spring, a spring wedding.
Like the southern USA, Texas is a long way from Windsor, but traditions remain universal in communities steeped in age-old customs.
My interpretation of what a traditional wedding cake would be, an English wedding cake, would be a heavy fruit cake, very dense, layers of maybe a fruit preserve in there, covered in fondant or marzipan, classically.
Whether Harry and Meghan's seasonally inspired cake will trigger a new royal tradition remains to be seen. One thing we can place a safe bet on is that thanks to social media, a brand new wedding cake trend will hit the wedding industry and most likely on a global scale.
The way things are nowadays with social media, a lot of our cakes are driven off of social media. So, you know, I'm sure little girls think about what their wedding cake's gonna look like when that big day, their magic day comes.
There's no doubt that Meghan has her fingerprints on this cake design, but her Californian roots mesh perfectly with the best of spring in the United Kingdom. As dawn broke over the majestic grounds of Windsor Castle on Saturday, May 19, 2018, this morning was not like any other. The tiny town of Windsor was now adorned with flags and bunting bursting with British pride. Cobblestone streets and the castle's long walk were filled with those who had come from lands far, far away. Guests that had come to witness a fairy tale that had now become a reality.
We came from San Francisco.
Alexandria, Virginia. This is my third day.
As celebrity guests, including the Clooneys and the Beckhams, and the royal family made their way into the chapel, the world held its breath for the first glimpse of the young bride. Before long, the American girl who fought her way to the top of Hollywood made her way down the long walk of the historic castle to the cheers of thousands. The much-anticipated moment had now arrived. In a breathtakingly regal dress by Givenchy and British designer Claire Wade Keller, Meghan made her way into the chapel to meet her prince at the altar.
Harry and Meghan, I now invite you to join hands and make your vows in the presence of God and His people.
The ceremony was filled with love and tenderness.
I, Harry, take you, Meghan.
I, Harry, take you, Meghan.
To be my wife.
Be my wife.
I, Meghan, take you, Harry.
I, Meghan, take you, Harry.
To be my husband.
To be my husband.
A prince moved to tears and a congregation filled with joy. And afterwards, it was all sealed with a kiss. As the sun set on Windsor Castle, one thing was certain, that fairy tales do exist, and love can conquer all. This wedding celebration broke away from a great deal of royal tradition, complete with late-night food trucks serving comfort food to its guests. It is a sign of the times, but it speaks volumes of the United Kingdom's newly wedded royals.
I'm excited to see all of the things that she's going to accomplish as being a Duchess. I think that she brings a new vibe, and she is a vital team player in the royal family.
Harry and Meghan will break with protocol when they please, but in a way that remains the poise and grace of the constitutional monarchy.
I think she might find it a little boring being a member of the royal family. If you've been used to the glitz of lights, glamour, action, being a star, and even on a show, Netflix show like Suits, she's always had an inkling for that sort of stardom. Now, if she feels that's going to be the same as being a member of the royal family, it really isn't.
The British people have gained in Meghan, a hard-working, down-to-earth new royal. We do not doubt that she will make a difference to many people's lives in her new role.
I'll be disappointed if I see Meghan go too far conservative, but I think it's inevitable. I think that she'll still be able to, when she's, in the country with Harry or traveling, which they'll probably do loads of, she could probably still be herself and her own, normal boho style. She'll probably have to get rid of the ripped jeans for good.
The monarchy has already been swept up into a 21st century transformation after the marriage of Prince William and Kate, who have managed to do things a little differently, but Will and Kate lie in a direct path to the throne, and so do their children.
We will have King Charles and possibly Queen Camilla before we have King William and Queen Catherine. That's how the royal family works. It's constitutional monarchy, and that's what will happen. But some might argue that it'll be the younger royals who perhaps have a bigger role in terms of moving the monarchy forward into the 21st century, really keeping in touch with young people, with the next generation.
Prince Charles III has often made comments that startle many of the protocol watchdogs. One of them, a desire to turn Buckingham Palace into a hotel on occasion. But like Prince William and the Duchess Kate, Charles is in the first in line to the throne and may not be up to taking the same risks that a younger royal might.
People think that he's going to be king like he's been Prince of Wales, you know, have an opinion on things, meddle in politics, be passionate about causes, be a sort of relative open book. The sense now is that when he now knows that when he becomes king, he can't be that. It goes against the role of a constitutional monarch, and he's going to have to sort of shut up really and toe the line. And I think there's a sense of, or growing sense of acceptance that he knows that. But there is no doubt that he's going to have a tough act to follow. And, you know, who knows how that's going to play out. I think it's very unpredictable.
It was Prince William who once said that modernisation is a hard word to use with the monarchy, and it is because it's everything we don't expect of being modern. It's age-old, it's historical, it's traditional. But actually, in order for the monarchy to exist and to continue to be successful, it does have to modernise. And the Queen recognises that. It's why we've seen her take to Twitter, announce things on Facebook, and get involved with a spoof with her son to promote the Invictus Games with the Obamas. You know, that's all a way of connecting to a modern society. And I think what she realised is that the real connection for the future is, of course, the next generation of royals.
Harry and Meghan's children will be brought up under the scrutiny that comes with being born a royal. But there can be no doubt that Meghan will bring new energy into the family and maintain some of her Californian zen with any future royal babies.
Oh my God, imagine. I would love if they were coming out wearing like Guns N' Roses t-shirts and being super American.
I sometimes think, will she become more conservative? Obviously, if she have a child, she's married to the royal family. But the other thing is that we have to remember that Prince Harry's married her for her. She's married him for him. It's not about protocol, it's not about the family, it's about the two people who are in love. And I think she's one of those people who's strong enough to have a consistent style, to be strong of mind, to look the way she wants to look. And I think that's what is such a big breath of fresh air to everybody, that she'll bring her own Meghan Markle look to the British shores.
I think that her style is going to remain, and you will see her wearing great coats, great little cute handbags.
Internet trolls can speculate all they like on Harry and Meghan's future children's skin. The rest of the world will embrace and cherish the differences in such a royal lineage. After all, it reflects a present-day United Kingdom and delivers exciting possibilities for future royals who fall in love with so-called commoners.
It'll be so exciting to see these kids that are, you know, half American, half English, and growing up in the royal family.
You take the Harry-Meghan Markle relationship back 20 years, that wouldn't have gone down so well 20 years ago. You know, the royal family and its attitude to life was changing, because it had to change, because it was out of date. But it's very much up to date now, and it's going to improve even more so now with the likes of William and Harry.
This is about happiness rather than protocol, and I think that's a fantastic step.
I think that they're in it for the long haul. Having no prenup speaks volumes for them. I think that they know that this truly is, I love this person, I'm in this relationship for the long haul, whether they're in the royal family or not.
That's not a relationship that you easily break apart.
I think we're going to see this forever.
As the sun sets on this historical wedding, the future looks bright for a new generation of royals, determined to create a legacy that will make an enormous impact on their own United Kingdom and the world.